call Monday, February 28th, regular school board meeting to order. Please rise for a moment of silence followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Again. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Before we start the order of business tonight, Dr. Burns, just per policy, if you're requesting to attend electronically, apparently we have to have a majority vote. So are you requesting to attend tonight's meeting electronically?
Yes.
Okay, board members, can I have a motion that she can attend electronically?
I move to allow Dr. Burns to attend electronically.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Thank you. Thank you very much. Changes, amendments, additions, or deletions to the agenda tonight? All right.
I have none.
Perfect. Approval of the minutes, Superintendent?
I recommend approval of the minutes from the school board workshop, February 7th, 2022, regular school board meeting, February 14th, 2022, and the special meeting of the Financing Corporation of the School Board of Lake County, Florida, February 14th, 2022.
So moved.
Great.
Second.
Discussion? No? All those in favor?
Aye.
It's
Aye.
5-0. Thank you. Okay, we have our representation tonight from Lake County Supervisor of Elections. Did I see
Yeah,
that?
so Ms. Owens will be coming forward with some introductions of our special guest.
Perfect.
Board members, Superintendent, good evening. So every year for the past few years, the Supervisor of Elections Office has issued a voter registration challenge for our students who are of age. They have provided a tutorial to educate our students and explain the process, and then encourage students to register. And after that, they would tally up the registrations to determine which school had the most students to participate. Well, today we are pleased to have with us Assistant Supervisor of Elections, Bob Bridgman, to give us those results. So, Mr. Bridgman, if you'd like to come up.
I also have Tina Dawson with me with the award this year. Supervisor of Elections Alan Hayes is unable to be here this evening, but he sends his congratulations and greetings. The 2021 winner, and recipient of this plaque that you do get to keep, the trophy is a traveling trophy, so the trophy will go to the next winner next year, but you do get to keep it for this year. 2021 winner is Mount Dora High School.
All right.
It's Mr. Bracewell here. Mr. Bracewell, on behalf of Supervisor Hayes, thank you. We appreciate your efforts as well as the efforts of Principal Strong and Superintendent Cornegay and the board. We appreciate all your efforts in encouraging students in their civic duties and the opportunity to register to vote. So there's the plaque for you.
Thank you so much.
And the traveling trophy.
With Christie's head in the back.
It's nice to meet you.
Thank you for your partnership. We definitely are
Yes.
thankful for the awareness and the civic responsibilities. So we appreciate you for coming tonight. All right, and now we're on to our district's high school athletic recognition.
Mr. Hogan.
Mr. Hogan.
Good evening. I'm going to get Mr. Dodd to help me here.
Okay.
Good evening, Superintendent, school board, ladies and gentlemen. Tonight, we would like to recognize the East Ridge High School competitive cheerleaders for their 2022 2A state championship. East Ridge High School, under the direction of Coach Kim DePietro, are state champions in the non-tumbling category, where there was considerable competition from around the state. Just a little bit of history about the team, and as they enter. Previously, the team held 4 regional runner-up finishes and had been to the state finals for 5 years, placing anywhere from 8th place to runner-up. This 2022 team was determined to break through, and they did in Gainesville by knocking down a door and winning the 2A state championship. Just a few highlights of this year's team. They were first place at the West Orange Classic, second place at the Lakeland Senior Showcase. They had the most seniors with a GPA of a 4.0 or better at the Lakeland Senior Showcase. They were second place at the regionals. Yeah, that deserves a hand of applause. And they brought down the house nearly with back-to-back in the semifinals and finals, and the last team to compete in placing first in the state championship. So we're going to meet the young ladies, and we're going to go from freshmen to seniors, and we're going to award them their medals and let everybody meet them. Our freshman first is Olivia Barth. Kaylee Robinette. Emily White. Chloe White. Madison Self. Michaela Rink. Sophomores, Kaylee Stark. Anna Savoy. Victoria DeGusto. Brooke Guthrie. Alexa Sykes. Moving to the junior class, Kayla Lyons. Brianna Roberts. Kristen Weaver. Skyla Klingenberg. Kella Woods. Luciana Vidal. Senior class, and Coach, who couldn't be here tonight, she listed all their GPAs. I'm not going to read them out, but they're so impressive, the senior class. Skylar Ferguson. Rachel Campbell. Marley Pinto. Haley White. Caitlin McDonald. Lacey Hensel. Allison Rector. Riley DePietro. And Taylor Parrott. Congratulations to East Ridge High School, the girls, for an outstanding accomplishment. And Mr. Dodd did a great job handing out these medals, too, I
I'll
want to
confess I
say.
had a little help here. That was great. Congratulations. It's always the people behind the scenes.
I like to give people the hard jobs alongside me. Thank you, ladies.
Congratulations, ladies. Congratulations. That's awesome.
Well done. Congratulations, girls.
Congratulations. Congratulations. And thank you to all the parents that are here. I know it took a lot from you guys to get them where they were as well, so we appreciate your support. They were all just lined up. I didn't want them to have to come around in this environment. You know, it's harder in here, so. A lot of girls. A lot of girls. All right. Thank you, Mr. Hogan. I love celebrating our state winners. That's so much fun, so appreciate it, Superintendent. So now we're on to our public input. We have a couple of cards. We'll start with Mr. Yocum. We have 3 minutes. You want to come to the podium and give us all your information and let us know what's on your mind.
Well, I was hoping I was in the parade yesterday at Eustis and, or 2 days ago, and Molly was there, and wish the rest of you there. You should have had a big float built by one of the classes that do all the picnic tables and everything else. I think put that on the list for next year. Have them make an all-wood float for you all in the parade. Just want to throw one bit of info out there because I know that maybe I watch news sources that many of you do not. There is a major effort nationally to one stage candidates for positions including school board. And in addition, there was a class just a week ago with one of the major leaders in the issue related towards masks in schools and mandates, and they taught 800 people how to personally sue board members in school boards. I don't think you guys are going to be a danger because you've taken a steady approach towards and a conservative approach, and also have a policy about CRT. But I just want to let you know that there's a lot of anger out there, and then with this, all of a sudden, they're commenting that all of a sudden the Biden administration is not mentioning masks or mandates or anything else, and instead they're constantly focusing on blaming it on Putin. So just that's what's called a shiny object, and they're shifting focus. And maybe, fortunately, you might be out of this because now they're switching to a different complaint. So with that, I wish you a good times, and I notice there's all cheerleaders up here, but where were the the guys? Back when I was in college, I was in charge of the cheerleaders, and we had guys in there too, and they did all the lifts and everything else. So now you have to have awards, or tell the guys they got to win as big awards as the ladies. Thanks.
Thank you, Vance. Kim Cronin?
Good evening, Superintendent, board members. I want to start off first by thanking staff for processing the employees' retention bonus as quick as they did. I want to thank you for that. Then on another note, we still have an awful lot of open positions. I saw on the news last week that Osceola was going to next school year start for minimum pay would be $15 an hour. So I did a little bit of research on that. We have over 2,100 employees, and under 700 of our employees are all that make $15 an hour. Everybody else under that makes less than $15 an hour. It's sad that, we have to depend on the state to give us money to do this, but we are not going to keep employees. We're not going to be able to hire employees for less than $15 an hour. And then we have employees that may be making $15 an hour, and they've been here for 26 years. How can we have a new hire coming in at $15 an hour when you've got an employee that's been here for 26 years making that much money? So it's something you need to think about. But like I said, there's, again, today, over 100 open positions for non-instructional employees. Custodial, and now with cafeteria has fallen into that. It was custodial and teacher assistants mostly, but there's quite a few cafeteria positions open now, too. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Johnson?
Evening or afternoon. Thanks a lot. I said 2 weeks ago I'd be back again talking about science fairs. Trying to figure out some incentive program for public school students and teachers on science fairs. I know there's a lot of work involved, but I've seen the numbers, at least in Umatilla, drop drastically. I don't like mandatory, but for example, Umatilla Middle School used to have 100, 150 students participate. This year they had 5, and 1 went to district. I don't know whether any are going to state or not. But some other numbers, for example, Spring Creek, 318 students did their project at home, 3rd through 8th graders. Almost 100% participation. We had 14 students not participate at home, but they did work in the classroom. And they sent, I think, 14 or 15 students to the district. I'll be judging regionals coming up the end of March. I've dropped back from high school to middle school because my brain doesn't function as quickly as it maybe used to. Altoona School had 40 fifth graders participate in science fair, all voluntary. 3 to 4 went to district. Umatilla Elementary School had 14 go to district, and they can't go to state because that's only middle school and high school. And if we don't get some of the high schools and middle schools to increase the numbers of students that go, we're going to see a drastic decrease in participation. I don't know how many they'll have at state, but usually they have about 900 students. And it's not just necessarily the scholarships that are available. It's the idea that they're learning STEM, science, technology, engineering, math. And I know now that Umatilla High School has hired a teacher he'll come in the summer sometime to teach whatever he's going to do in STEM, and I'll approach him when he gets here about helping out with the science fair. The students don't have much problem with the paperwork. Apparently, it's some of the teachers that don't want to do it. But I talked to Ms. Blackstone, and she said she called all the schools, and if they needed help filling out paperwork, she got 0 responses. So I think those are the right numbers. I thought maybe she might be here to double check me on that. But I think it's very important to be in the do science fairs. And even, I mean, we have football teams, we have basketball teams, but not everybody can do either one of those, so science fair to me would be a good outlet. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson, for your advocacy. Arizona Tame.
Can you all hear me? Hi there, good evening. I'm a student at Eustis High School. I'm in the senior class this year, and I run a club there called the LGBTQ+ and Allies Club. And a bunch of the people from my club and I have started a petition, and I wanted to see if I could bring awareness to it, and this is the best way I figured out I could, to get preferred names put in the Skyward system. And the reason that we're trying to do this is because we have noticed a big issue with the depression rates of LGBTQ+ teenagers and even middle schoolers for getting dead named or getting called something that they prefer not to be called. Like, personally, I get insulted by teachers or something. And it's something that they wanted to raise awareness to, and it's something that we have over a couple hundred signatures to. And I just wanted to, once again, raise it to all of you guys in the best way that I knew possible. Thank you, and have a good day.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Okay, that's the end of public input. So Superintendent Advisory Committee report. I think I saw Mr. Bryant here.
Good evening, Chairman Luke, Superintendent, members of the board. I'd like to begin tonight with a couple of recognitions. So I want to congratulate Cole Baxley, the SGA president at Eustis High School, on his recent admissions to Florida State University, where they also offered him as Mom put it, a very nice scholarship. And I'd also like to congratulate Miss Michelle McCoy, the SGA president at Lake Mineola, who received a full ride to the University of Connecticut. And another shout out to a Eustis High School alumni in the class of 2019, Leah Hanks, or as her teammates call her, Hank the Tank, and the entire Notre Dame softball team for their win over Florida Gulf Coast last Saturday at the Leesburg Collegiate Softball Tournament. Then I'd like to also congratulate Leesburg's own Dr. Monique Griffin-Gay, who was recognized Friday evening by the Leesburg Black Heritage Committee as the 2022 Influential Educator, and wrapping it up with my recognitions of Mrs. Lou Allen and Mama Hawk don't tell her I forgot her name, by the South Lake Chamber of Commerce as influential educators in South Lake as well. I did. I was recognized as the male rising star. Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. And something else I want to make sure I highlight is over the past several weeks, I've had the opportunity to speak with other student advisors, not just in Florida, but across the country. And as far as I can find, and I've done a little research on it, Lake County is one of only a handful of districts in the entire state of Florida that has student representation directly to the school board. And of that small number, an even smaller percentage where the board and the superintendent are very receptive to the students and their suggestions. So I want to make sure I say thank you to the board and to the superintendent for always listening, and not just to students, but to community stakeholders as well. And although she is one of the busiest and hardest working people in Lake County, she always finds time to correct my grammar and spelling and everything. So thank you so much for that. Something I neglected to mention in my last update was the work of Ms. Owens, who created an SSAC tab on the district's website. If you click on Our District, Superintendent, and then scroll down, you will find where the Superintendent's Student Advisory Committee keeps all of its minutes and agenda for not only your review, but also for members of the public and our fellow students to see as well. It has all of our members as well. And I also want to thank Ms. Owens, who attended our February meeting, and Mr. Johnson for they captured some B-roll of us in action. So we last met on February 16th at 5 p.m. here in the boardroom. At that meeting, we also had Mr. Weeks, Executive Director of Technology. He came back and gave us some updates on questions that we had back in November. He informed us that he would like to run a pilot program for students to submit websites that they need access to complete coursework that were previously blocked. The pilot would start with dual enrollment students at East Ridge High School and would eventually expand to ACE, AB, and IB students. And as a follow-up for our January workshop discussion about the proposed dress code changes, we have a definition for upper thigh. I know that was something that Mr. Dodd really wanted. So upper thigh was defined as halfway between the crease your hip makes and the mid-thigh. Like it? And as a reminder, the mid-thigh definition was halfway from the top of the leg, the crease your hip makes, to the top of the knee. And something else was the vagueness on if students would be allowed to place anything between their lower garments and their skin, and we ultimately decided that they should be able to, and added the following to lower garments, Part B. Durable/non-transparent materials, including paper, tape, or other fabric, may be used to cover tears/holes. And then we also changed it, the discipline to say the principal and his or her designee to match other district language. And I am so happy to see the dress code up for tentative approval this evening. I want to thank the other members of the SSAC, Dr. Feltner, and the superintendent, and again the board, and the students of Lake County for their valuable input. In my hand, I have the signed petition from 303 students at Gray Middle and a few from South Lake with changes that they wanted to see in the board. And for all of my comments during that discussion, I kind of used this as a guiding principle to go off of, and a lot of these changes are reflected in that proposed dress code. So we discussed our parking recommendation in more depth at our February meeting and agreed that before we bring that to the board, we want to have more discussion with our high school principals. Something else that I previously mentioned was the Lake County SGA Conference, and on behalf of East Ridge and the SSAC, I am happy to extend an invitation to all board members and the superintendent to attend. It will be March 26th from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. at East Ridge High School. And all of the high school and middle school SGAs will have been invited. A concern that was brought at our February meeting was the lack of vegetarian options for students at lunch. The follow-up from food service was very quick, so I would like to thank the supervisor of food services for that. And we were informed that, like everything else in the world, it is a result of disrupted supply changes, and their goal is to add some more vegetarian options back in April. Now, as I close, I'd like to take you all back to January of 2018. One of my predecessors, Reagan Young, is addressing the school board and talking about happenings at Leesburg High School. Something she spoke about was the negative press that Leesburg had received. And I am sad to say that in spite of all of the great things happening at Leesburg High, the news again is focusing on one or two negative events that do not reflect the true reality of the school and its positive environment. So let me tell you about some of the things that have been going on at LHS that the news won't tell you about. One of the LHS seniors led the Pledge of Allegiance on the floor of the Florida Senate last week. Our girls lacrosse team won against Ocoee High and Newberry High. 3 of our boys wrestlers advanced to regionals, and 1 is headed to states. 2 students, after a second-place finish in the Student Angler Federation Florida Trail, are headed to nationals in Alabama this summer with a 6.88-pounder and a 14.97-pounder. They were also one of the very few female teams to participate. Our student government provided lunch for our faculty on Valentine's Day. The LHS Construction Academy is nearing completion of its 3rd Habitat for Humanity home. And along with amazing community partners, they built not 1, not 2, but 20 beds for children through an organization called Sleep in Heavenly Peace. 2 A students earned the Merit Award, and 8 other students earned the Scholar Award from Cambridge for their performance on exams last June. 4 years ago, when Reagan spoke to you, Leesburg's graduation rate was 67% for the 2016 to 2017 school year. In 2021 to 2022 school year, it was 87.3. And not to steal Mr. Randolph's thunder, but Leesburg is on track to have a 90% graduation rate this year, marking the first time in school history. Something that Reagan said was, "We are a campus that never stops progressing," and she was right. So to everyone listening tonight, hear me when I say this. LHS is more than a small handful of bad actors. Students like these are the norm, not the exception. And while I'm proud in my role as chairman of the SSAC to help represent all Lake County schools, I'm extremely proud to represent Leesburg High School. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
I did want to check before I sit down that there were no questions.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to tell you, and the only reason I know this is because I saw the whole family on Friday night, and they were all in their Florida gear. So Cole Baxley's going to the University of Florida, not Florida State, and I imagine they would want that clarified, as would Mr. Dunn.
Yes, they would.
Very big difference.
It was so funny. Whenever they walked up, they were like, he got in. I'm like, oh, to where? I'm totally kidding. They were all decked out. So it's a celebratory day for a lot of seniors. I know they're finding out where they're going. We appreciate your address. We appreciate the way that you speak so passionately about Leesburg High School and even about all of our schools and all you're doing to lead this SAC committee. So thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. We are on the attorney. Follow that, Mr. Johnson. Do you have something?
I don't think I'll try.
Great. All right. We are on our consent agenda, Superintendent.
I recommend approval of consent agenda 8.01 to 10.05.
Board members?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, that's 5-0. We are now on our list of applications, charter application renewals.
So you had a chance to hear the recommendations earlier this evening at the workshop that we had, and so I'll do these separately as I did previously. For 11.01, first, I would like to recommend approval of the charter renewal application for Lake Technical College.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, that's 5-0.
And I'd also like to recommend approval of the charter renewal application for Mascot Charter School.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect, 5-0. Okay, what about our policy
The
approvals?
public hearing for
Yep.
Mr. Johnson.
Yes, ma'am. Item 11.02 was the final approval of policy
11.03.
2421, career and technical education. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this final approval, please come forward to the podium at this time. I don't see anyone coming forward, Madam Chairman, and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
All right. Board members? Are we at approval of our policy? Then there's nobody? Yes.
Ready?
Yep.
I recommend final approval of policy 2421, career and technical education.
So moved.
Second.
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great.
11.03 is final approval of policy 7100, facilities planning. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy, please come forward to the podium at this time. Madam Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent.
Recommend final approval of policy 7100, facilities planning.
Board members?
So moved.
Mr. Dodd, so moved.
Second.
Second, great. Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Nope, 5-0. Thank you. 11.04.
11.04 is final approval of policy 8405, school safety and security. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy, then please come forward to the podium at this time. Madam Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent.
I recommend final approval of policy 8405, school safety and security.
Board members?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any
Aye.
opposed? Great, 5-0. 11.05.
Item 11.05 is final approval of policy 8407, safe school officers. If there's anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy, then please come forward at this time. Madam Chairman, I don't see anyone coming forward and believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent.
I recommend final approval of policy 8407, school safety officers.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, 5-0. All right, the big one. Here we go.
Item 11.06 is tentative approval of revisions to policy 5511, dress and grooming. If there is anyone here this evening that wishes to speak to this policy, please come forward at this time. Madam Chairman, I believe it appropriate to close the public hearing.
Superintendent.
I recommend tentative approval of the revisions to policy 5511, dress and grooming.
Board.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Perfect. Thank you very much. Superintendent's
all.
report. That's it. Superintendent's report.
I don't have a lot this evening. I did want to ask the board if you would be available on March the 21st. That is our next opportunity to have a workshop. And would like to have a workshop to bring to you the audit that Mr. Mock is preparing on our .75 millage funding. We have a few other items for that meeting as well.
The 21st?
21st.
I had it in the calendar already. So.
I'm sorry?
You were coming
Already
already?
had it on my phone. So I'm good.
Okay, good. Any
Anybody else?
conflicts for
Everybody
that
good?
date?
Dr. Burns, are you good? Okay, great. No
All
worries.
right, we'll advertise accordingly then.
Is that it?
That was it?
That was
Oh,
it?
Wait, do I
No?
have any
Okay.
others? I did have 2 letters of condolence. One, Dixie Laponium. I'm sure I did not say that correctly, so I apologize. She passed away recently. She was a bus assistant monitor. Also, Lorenzo Alexander Major, father of Doug Major in our communications office, also passed away. So condolences to Doug and his family.
Yeah, thank you, Superintendent. Board members? Dr. Burns, do you want to start tonight? Do you have comments?
I don't have anything.
Okay, thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Matthias?
I'd just like to, I received a text and then I received a message. Tomorrow, in front of the Lake County Historic Courthouse at 1 o'clock is a prayer and speakers in support of the Ukraine. So it's called the Ukraine Rally. So I'm going to try and make it there, and I would certainly encourage anyone that really feels strongly about freedom and the right of the Ukrainian people to have their sovereignty to be there. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Matthias. Mrs. Cunningham?
I just have a few highlights of events that have occurred and honors and prestigious engagements of students and teachers in Lake County. Mr. Anderson, who teaches at Triangle Elementary, his steel drum band performed at the Orlando Magic basketball game this past weekend. Also, the Mount Dora FFA had a wonderful time on Saturday afternoon at a chili cook-off. It was greatly attended. There was standing and parking room only. And of course, there was our spelling bee last Friday. That was also very well attended by both parents and students, and we have our winner. And I think once again, our curriculum department did an exceptional job in staging the event and making it pleasant for all. I'd like to shout out to Leah Hanks. As a former person, a student at Carver, I'm very proud of her accomplishments. I believe she and Mr. Bryant were there at some of the same time. Those were some banner students, and they go on to continue to exceed, and we're very proud of them. With that said, I think this is just one of those times when we as Lake Countyans and people connected to our school district can just take a special sense of pride in all the accomplishments that we're seeing on behalf of not just our students, but our employees and other faculty members at this time. That's all I have, ma'am.
Thank you, Mrs. Cunningham. Mr. Don?
Yes, I have a number of items, but mostly quick ones. One is, as Don Cove was speaking and talking about the number of districts who don't really have the student representation, I couldn't help but kind of have flashbacks to when a majority of us first were on this board and we'd have a rotating student representative come through. And we, Superintendent, you came in with an incredible idea to totally revitalize that. That was a system where students never had any influence. They'd come this month, we'd get this one, and next month we get another one, and another one. But by assembling them all together and what we've done here is truly amazing, and testament to that as we approved the tentative dress code tonight with the students' work on that. So well done on the vision to create this sort of system rather than the old system we had, and great work to you and all the students who worked alongside of you to make that a reality. It's amazing. It makes you proud to be part of Lake County. Yeah. So. Also, they're talking about the CIA. No rest for the curriculum department. This weekend I had a chance to stop by History Day, and these projects, I can't even believe to the depth that some of these students had researched some of the topics. That some of these projects were taller than me, and I'm not incredibly short, but I know a lot of work went into that, both from the curriculum side as well from the student side. So just wanted to acknowledge that. And I think Ms. Cockcroft said it best when she had this very sobering revelation that she shared with me, that it's kind of uneasy of a feeling when you start to see projects from History Day that have taken place during your lifetime. So, yeah, thanks for that. Thanks for that revelation, because that did not cross my mind at first. Also, big thanks to all the folks in payroll who made those bonuses come out so quickly. I remember asking in one of our agenda review meetings a month or so ago the timeline, and Mr. Ward had talked about, kind of maybe spring break sort of time, but, I know you all worked real hard to make that happen even sooner, and so big thanks to all those employees that got to see that in their checks today. And then one other particular item worth sharing with the board is that the Lincoln Park South Lake Alliance, if you recall, is a group of community leaders down in Claremont who were looking at the future of Claremont Elementary, particularly, when we vacate that area, how does that facility still live on with an educational sort of focus, being some sort of community center where education can still be a vibrant part of that community. We had offered up an MOU a while back to the group with some benchmark goals for them to try to achieve in terms of their fundraising efforts, and because we know that those buildings are in need of a lot of renovation. It is really turning out to be, I think, a bit larger of a lift than the Lincoln Park group is able to stand on their own. And so there's been some interest from the city of Claremont to come forward and potentially support these efforts. But in order for that to happen, the city of Claremont would want to maintain or to gain control of the property. And as I say that, we're not talking about any of the buildings that we would maintain for our pre-K center, and of course, obviously some property for parking of that sort of thing. But I just wanted to, get the board's blessing to go back and talk to the city of Claremont now, and as a starting point, look at the MOU that we had first offered Lincoln Park as to, I don't know if the city of Claremont would be interested in the long-term lease that we've got. They already are leasing McKinney Park from us, or whether they're going to be more interested in from a purchasing standpoint. So I don't know what that looks like, but I wanted to make sure y'all were in the loop, and if you're okay with that, then I'll go back and start talking to city of Claremont.
Yeah.
You're in the loop about which one, the lease or the give it to them or?
Well, I'm not talking about giving it to them.
Okay. Good then. Go forth and talk.
The property is appraised at $4 million.
Right.
So it is certainly not a,
Well, the original MOU was that we were going to give them a certain amount of time, and they
That's
started
right.
making, it's like $1 a year, and then after that, it was at market value.
Right.
Seems more fair, I mean, right?
Yeah. So I think the city of Claremont, just from a long-term planning perspective, would feel more comfortable about supporting something if they knew that they've, got the stability with that. But I think that's still kind of contingent on, the city council getting behind the idea of that turning into a community center of some kind. Preliminary discussions are very preliminary. Nothing's gone before the council, and so I don't really know what their support is for that. And so it's just, I guess, a starting point of conversation, and then come back to you all. And
Wasn't there also conversation going on with Lake Tech?
There
I think
was.
Some part of that.
There was about.
Is that something that's still on the table? You got
It's
2
a little
minutes.
bit, yeah. I'll do it in less than 2. So, yes, we are very supportive of the project. However, in thinking of what do they want to do down there, there are a lot of partners now involved that weren't previously. So the amount of space that they're looking at for Lake Tech to go in is rather small, actually, with some classrooms and that type of thing, which would be fine, except for us and our accreditation, that involves becoming an instructional service center, which we have already done and gone through those steps with Lake Sumter State College as we've expanded our footprint with them, which somewhat makes sense as we're developing career pathways for students that are gaining career certificates and then moving on to the college pathway. So it would be a big expense to Lake Tech to then add a second instructional service center down there for such a small portion of a building that really wouldn't allow for a lot of industrial programs and those type of things. So we did write a letter of support that we would obviously do GED preparation, English classes, perhaps job interviewing, resume writing, computer literacy, those type of community-based type trainings and, job prep type things. But ultimately, it would be up to our board. But based on the expense versus the space that we would have, it really doesn't look like it would be the best place for us to expand the footprint. But we're very supportive of what they're trying to do. There's just a lot going on there with that project now.
And I think visions are still all over the place, that, there's quite possible, the possibility could still exist that as these people continue to talk about what the needs of the community are, that they may, evaluate space allocations, I would think. And so, because I know that initially this board had a significant support for Lake Tech to go in there that we would love to see.
That's
Not
what
necessarily
that's what I remember.
Yeah, not
Yes.
necessarily a replication of all your programs, because some of that equipment is just so expensive that it would be hard to do that.
Absolutely.
But in some cases or places, maybe there are some
Yeah,
programs.
I think the big thing was Lincoln Park Group did come and speak to our board of directors when Dr. Culpepper was still with us, and that was pre-COVID. Of course, that kind of delayed everything. But we were waiting to kind of find out what those, who's going to handle all of the operating costs, the monthly operating costs of the project, because it's going to be expensive. And I think at that time, when they were looking at renovations and what it would need to bring it up to adult-type restrooms and to upgrade the facility, it was near $20 million, which we just did not have that type of money to bring the building up to what we needed it to be to turn into an adult type of facility. So that was really where it was left, but we did not explore any more beyond that simply because COVID happened and everything was put on pause.
But I certainly remember that and recall that spirit of the board, so I will certainly keep that, at the forefront of the
Ultimately, it's about what the community, but all I have heard for my term on the board has been to have a real component of Lake Tech in South Lake.
That's right.
And this seemed like a natural to me.
Me too.
I would hate for you now to have a little, if the pie gets too small, then just pull out. That's
Right.
what I'm telling you.
Sure.
That way, there's no more discussion about that.
Yes, and
But I think
there's
the
just
public would be disappointed to hear
Yeah,
that.
I
a lot of
think
unknowns right now.
I'd love to sit down and talk more with you individually and.
Sure, I'd be happy to.
and,
Sure.
Learn more about what that would look like for you and And maybe we'll just find an anonymous donor to send $20 or $50 million.
That would be amazing. That would be
You can
amazing.
make that check
Yes.
payable.
And Sharon
201,
Keys and I
yes.
have met many times, and so she and I have collaborated on several things and trying to be creative and think outside of the box. But I'm more than happy to meet with you. I would love that opportunity.
Since we control the property, it
Right.
seems like we should have some control over what's going to be on the property, right? And if the public wants more vocational training, which that is where I think if you ask, they would want that over maybe just a community building, maybe, you know.
Yeah, I think in some of the original vision, they could both coexist. That in some respects, and I guess the other thing to consider is that the city of Claremont doesn't have $20 or $50 million to build a new community center, right? With all the bells and whistles that people would want to see. So I think that I'd like to talk more about what kind of piece of pie would be needed, and of course still contingent on your board support and what sort of funding is even available, and I would argue that this board should have a conversation about co-supporting any sort of legislative priority to see that vocational education expanded down south, and certainly as we talk about from a workforce development piece, how important that is.
Absolutely.
So,
That's right. Good stuff.
Thank you.
thanks for bringing that back up, Bill.
Sure.
And one final thing, my wife happens to be watching. I just want to wish a happy anniversary. Apparently we couldn't come up with a more romantic way of celebrating 18 wonderful years than doing it right here in the school board meeting. So, yeah, another sign you're getting old.
Thank you, Mr. Dodd, and happy
Yeah.
anniversary. I'm just going to say ditto, because you guys did a nice job of that, and spring break is in 8 days. Meeting adjourned.